right, guys, on this week's episode of Squencher Outdoors, if you can look in the background, you can probably guess where we're at. We're at Lake of the Ozarks. I'm with professional tournament angler and guide Joe Grafeman. Joe, thanks for letting me come on your boat with you today. You guys, the calendar's flipped. It's October 1st now, Joe, and I know it down in Table Rock, the shad are starting to transition to the back of the coves, and you're kind of getting out of that summer pattern. But of course, the day I picked to come up, it's 85 degrees out. So what are we going to do today to catch some fish?
Yeah, so right here we're in the fall transition time, as you heard Tony say, but it doesn't really feel like fall out here. So we're still kind of fishing, you know, pretty far offshore, the mouth of creeks, things like that. And following the bait fish is very important this time of year. So that's what we're going to do today, and hopefully catch a few big ones.
So of course we're going to be looking at the fish finder a lot like we always do, but Joe said he thinks we can catch quite a few drop shotting, and then we might go throw a jig or do something different, and we'll just see what happens, man. Of course there's giant boats out here, so I'm going to go hang onto my camera before it goes overboard.
That's right.
But get us dialed in and I'll get up here.
It's the fall of the year here, so we might go flip some boat docks too and get up there a little bit shallower and see what we can do.
See what we can do? Boy, there's big boats up here. I'm not used to that.
Squencher Outdoors is made possible by the support of these great companies. The Resource Center for all your insurance solutions. Jim Butler Centralia, where the Squencher team gets all our vehicles. Rustic Timbers Furniture for home and office. Mossy Oak Properties, find your happy place. Vexus Boats, outfitting your dream your way. Lily's Landing, Brance's top resort and marina. Big Creek Ducks and Bucks for your Arkansas outdoor experience. Hot Shot Archery, accuracy defined. Magnus Broadheads, quality with a lifetime guarantee. Vortex Optics, closing the distance. Spartan Camera, so you don't have to be there. HHA Sports, American made and family owned. Dominant Strands, our choice for premium custom bowstrings. Elvish Tack Light, no sight light compares. Trophy Image, animal nutrition you can trust. Dare Construction, dare to dream. Orani Archery Products, top-notch arrows and components. Big D's Barbecue, voted best Branson barbecue for nearly a decade. And of course, our friends at Squencher. Hydration for everyone.
Now, Joe, tell everybody, you know, drop shot in Table Rock, I just constantly think of going up and down. You're casting your drop shot, which is totally different than what we'd be doing at Table Rock.
Absolutely. Yeah, down there, you know, it's a lot more vertical fishing. You're fishing a lot deeper water. And out here, you know, we're fishing right there. Got one.
You got one?
Not the biggest one in the world, but it's a little start to the day.
And now, Joe, drop shot on Table Rock, we'd be catching spotted bass. That don't look like no spotted bass to me.
A little largemouth out here, but you know, right here we're on the mouth of a creek fishing the main lake point. There's a bunch of fish here just feeding on shad that are moving back in there. And you know, the fish have been kind of scattered a lot here recently, catching a lot out here on the main lake. And also catching some, you know, further back in the creeks as well. Just caught that first fish, had to get in here and grab another worm out. Throwing a big bite bait, sneakerama worm out here today. And as far as my drop shot setup, I'm throwing it on a Douglas X Matrix 724 extra fast tip. And you want that extra fast tip to kind of be able to have the momentum to throw it out there with just a little flick of a wrist. You know, with today's like fish finders and live scope and all this stuff, a lot of the times you're not making that long of a cast to what you're throwing at. So it's important to have the right rod, not only to be able to land the bait correctly, but also to get that fish in the boat. Throwing it on 12-pound K9 fluorocarbon, and my main line is 15-pound K9 braid. And got an owner cover shot here. We're just gonna Texas rig this bait on there, just like so. Take it through about a 1/4 inch, push it up there on the keeper, and all you're doing from there is just hooking it back into place. But you know, all summer long, this is a bait that'll catch a lot of fish, but also big ones out here at Lake of the Ozarks. You know, we have a lot of fish throughout the summer months that get out here on these offshore places, and you know, we catch them on it all the way up until late October. You know, is kind of when I start to transition more so, and every year is different. But you know, like you heard Tony say earlier, we got a lot of hot weather, and it's hot today, so we're out here fishing a little bit deeper with this drop shot.
All right, Joe, so drop shot down on Table Rock, I'd be looking straight down.
Oh yeah.
So you're casting it out, and how are you working it back? You just jigging it,
kind of shaking it and hopping it along, making sure I'm making contact with the bottom. That's very important.
And what's the bite going to feel like? Is it going to feel like a thump, or is it just going to get heavy?
Yeah, you'll feel them bite it, and then it'll kind of load up. And you know, having the right rod to be able to feel the bite, especially under pressured situations, is definitely important. And
yeah, I know you guys just had a big tournament up here over the weekend, so this lake got hammered.
There's so many tournaments on this lake, and the fish are definitely changing.
How deep are we sitting right now?
Right here we're at 50 foot, but up here it's just a nice little bluff ledge, like I said, at the mouth of this creek, and a lot of these fish are chasing bait fish into the backs of the creeks. And during the fall of the year, following the bait around is definitely really important, and each year is a little bit different on kind of where those fish are set up at. Right now we've had quite a bit of hot weather, so a lot of the fish that I've been catching have still been pretty main lake. Catching quite a few shallow as well, just skipping boat docks with a big jig, and that's kind of one of my favorite ways to fish. But
that's how you catch the big ones?
Do that here a little bit later on.
I'm switching this handle to the other side, big boy.
Alrighty.
You jinxed us. You caught one on the first cast. You know you're not supposed to do that.
No, I know.
Okay, now Joe, this looks like some kind of ledgy stuff here. So they just kind of sitting on these rock ledges, just waiting for that worm to come bouncing off of it, basically?
Yeah, so in this area, you kind of have fish that are actually sitting on the bottom, on a ledge or near a big boulder or something like that. And with it being a vertical drop, you also have fish that are just roaming around, moving back and forth down this area. And live scope is
that may have had a bite right there.
Definitely a crazy thing. I'm sure you've seen all that, but it's definitely.
But today, doing this kind of stuff, you're not really staring at your live scope quite as much. This is just a transition bank that fish are holding on. And
absolutely, but a lot of them roamers that I just mentioned earlier, live scope's a good tool to catch those. But I like flipping a jig under a dock, and that's a good way to catch a lot of fish here in the fall. So we'll probably do that here a little bit later on. But I figured with it being so hot, we'd kind of come out here and check some of this main lake stuff to start the day.
You're going fast. You ain't going slow. I cast out, I'm already to the back of the boat.
Oh yeah, a lot of the times, what I'm doing right here is I'm only fishing about the first 20 feet or so.
And then reeling it back in and starting over.
Once I get off that initial drop, I'm kind of reeling it back in and keeping it moving.
You don't get snagged too much doing this, even on this rocky stuff?
No. The right weight definitely helps for that. We're using an Epic tungsten cylinder weight.
Like about 8 ounce?
Yeah. So the size and the shape of that definitely.
I said that and I just got you snagged. Did you see that though? Come right off there.
That's a little guide trick.
That was a little guide trick. I can tell you one thing, boy, with this braided line, you can really feel every little bump, every rock, everything it hits.
Absolutely, and a lot of the times, I'm sure, like down there at Table Rock, you're talking about fishing vertically, and a lot of the times you're probably over, 70 to 100 feet of water.
Yeah, sometimes you never know.
The braid definitely helps because it has a lot of sensitivity to it.
You notice how Joe got out that real pretty blue worm for him? He stuck me with the pink one, so I don't know what that's all about, but we'll see.
The old pink one catches him.
Yeah, definitely. You come off there a little bit, you lose contact with the bottom real quick, don't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fishing with the brush fire.
Number one thing everyone asks me on Guide Trip, Joe, can we catch a topwater fish? Probably not today. Bright blue
today.
skies, sun, barely any wind. I don't see it happening today.
Yeah, it's not the most ideal day, but you know, coming up here is some of the best topwater fishing of the whole year, and this is a great lake for it. I'm fortunate to live here and run a full-time guide service.
Is this your second full season on tour, Joe?
It is, yeah. So
What do you think about all the changes to those forward-facing sonars and all the rule changes that's coming up?
you know, personally, I enjoy the changes, and I feel like our job as fishermen is to
catch them whatever way you have to catch them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I didn't grow up with this live scope, and
so you're not married to the live scope then.
no, you know, and I think
I kind of miss the old days of going down the bank, throwing a crankbait, throwing a spinnerbait, throwing a plastic worm. I'm sure you can still catch fish doing it, but for some reason nobody does.
Me too, you know, and I think one of the changes that they made next year was like the first day of the tournament you can use it, the second day you can't, and then on the final day you can. So I think it'll really kind of keep guys on their toes, and you're going to have to
adjust. You're going to have to adjust every day then.
A lot of different ways.
I broke off, and I can tell you what happened there. I stole Joe's rod with the blue worm on it that he was holding out on, and then I went ahead and caught one. Thanks, Joe. Man, Tracy, deer season's winding down. I guess me and you are going to be headed back to Lily's Landing to do a bunch more guide trips.
Speaking of Lily's Landing, let's show these folks what they have to offer.
All right, spot number 2. Joe's going to throw a jig for a little bit, and I'm going to stick with the drop shot, and we'll see which one works better. Water's a pretty color up here at Lake of the Ozarks. You just got that, it just looks fishy.
Oh yeah, this is one of the best lakes in the country, man. I fished all over, and there's nothing like here. It's a pretty special place we got.
What makes it stay this color? Like Table Rock, crystal clear. Why, is there more algae up here? Or?
I think the boat traffic and just a lot of as many boats as here, that probably has something.
Keeps it stirred up all the time.
Yeah. You know, one thing that's really important throughout the fall months is keeping in mind that the water is going to be turning over at different parts of the lake, and you know, that really kind of messes with the oxygen levels for the fish. And so paying attention to that and trying to find the best quality water that you can is one thing that you can do to definitely increase your numbers of fish that you catch throughout the fall. And
that can just be one creek arm over too, couldn't it?
absolutely, yeah, one spot to the next can be totally different, but it kind of tends to happen in like sections of the lake, you know.
Yeah, like up in the river first, and then it just migrates its way down to the main lake.
Down. I was in the Niangua today, and it was going on up there, but it definitely is that time of year. You got to kind of pay attention to that.
Yeah, I gave Joe a pretty tough task today. We didn't get out here till about 1:30, 2 o'clock.
A little bit late in the day, but it's never too late to catch bass. We'll get to it here shortly.
So it looks like you're still keen on the points more than anything.
Yep.
Did you see how he cut me off and wouldn't let me get in there? He cast in a jig and then he sneaks right in there again with old blue there. Nice. Now why is there some brush here? What's holding the fish right here, Joe?
Right here. Yeah, we're kind of at the edge of this point, and you know, a lot of the fish still being out offshore with the hot weather. Definitely looking for them in areas like this, and it's just a matter of weeding through the smaller ones to get the bigger
I
bites
just had a bump.
sometimes. He just had one there. You know, there's a million points on this lake, but one thing that definitely helps kind of make it the right one is having good brush piles on it. You know, that's a big thing. The bass are predators just like anything else, so having something that they can sit there and kind of use as an ambush point to eat bait fish, you know, that's really, really important. And then also just having a good amount of bait fish present in the area is a really big thing too, that's going to help you, you know, catch more fish and kind of determine what's better than the next as far as looking for these types of areas.
Boy, Joe, he just pulled down on that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a little bit better fish.
Yeah.
I don't see no net in this boat. What's wrong with that system?
Grab 'em.
Yeah, reach down there and get that. Atta boy.
Shot bass right there, folks.
The old pink worm does work.
Oh yeah.
You guys now, like I said, down on Table Rock, when we're drop shotting, we're just vertical drop shotting all the time. So I don't get to cast very much drop shotting like Joe does. This is actually pretty fun. You think they're just coming off those little ledges and they just grab it and swim with it? That's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are just kind of roaming around through these areas and looking for their next meal and see the pink or the blue worm and run out and eat it.
There it is. Got him right on the brush pile. Want to borrow one of these pink ones?
Maybe.
Guys, if you're up here at Lake of the Ozarks and you want to just learn how to use your electronics and you want to bring your own boat and have Joe set up your electronics, you'll do that, won't you? Do training trips?
Absolutely, I do a lot of that, and I work with all different brands of graphs, you know, so whatever you got, I can definitely help get you dialed in. And you know, we all have a ton of money wrapped up in this stuff, but unless you have the best, fullest understanding of what you're doing and how to use it correctly, you know,
It's just a waste of time if you can't see it. Now you're so used to seeing your bait down there on your graph, if you can't see your bait, it's like you feel like you're blind and lost. There you go. That's a little better fish.
A little bit better. Little chunker. Catching them on a drop shot. There's a million fish right here, and seen that one, pitched a drop shot to it, and she ate it first cast. But kind of tired of looking at the screen, so we're gonna go fish up shallow and swim a jig around and see if we can't catch a big one or two.
All right, guys, we started off the afternoon doing a drop shot. We caught some small largemouth doing that, but we're going to go on and put on a big old, what is that, 5/8 jig? What do you got?
That one's a half.
Half
and I'm
ounce?
throwing a 3/4.
3/4. And we're just going to throw it up on these rock ledges and just swim it off the rock ledges and see if one breaks our arm.
And there's a lot of brush piles and like lay down logs. You know, you can tell that's a pretty fresh one there, but a lot of these areas tend to hold a lot of big fish, and we're kind of in a smaller cove off the main channel, and a lot of these fish, like I said, are following the shad. So.
And Joe gave me a reel that looks like he hasn't used it in 6 years with some kinky fishing line on it. Thanks, Joe. I know it's the end of the summer and times are tough, but this looks like a slinky.
Join us next week as Tony and Joe wrap up their day at Lake of the Ozarks, and then Tony heads down to Bull Shoals Lake to fish with good buddy Josh Isaacs of Branson Full Throttle Fishing Adventures.